Mobile Suit Gundam 0079 Rise from the Ashes was produced by Bandai and directed by Masahiko Tokushima. It was released for the Sega Dreamcast in 1999 and is a first-person shooter that puts you in the cockpit of a mobile suit during the later stages of the One-Year War. It takes place after the Federation's victory at Operation Odessa. With the tide of the war now in its favor, a counter-offensive is launched to retake the continent of Australia. For most of the war, Australia has been under Zeon's control, as it was unable to put up much of a fight following the colony drop on Sydney. The world map now shows a massive crater where the city once stood. Now it's been wiped off the map and covered by ocean water.
Well, the missions I'm on keep getting more and more dangerous. Can't I hear that sweet lullaby once more?
Meteor shower. Remnants of the colony drop.
Maybe they're the souls of all those that were killed in the drop, drawn back by the Earth's gravity. This land here is charged with the power of hatred for the Zeon.
Sig. I'll take care of them. You handle the cannon fodder on the rear line.
Aye, aye, sir. This is our last stand. Let's see how many of them we can take down.
Fang 1! You call the shots from here on! It's a high-output beam cannon! All units alert!
But I believe a day will come when all of mankind, Earthnoid and Spacenoid, will finally be able to live together in harmony. And as we dream of that day, let us say a prayer that the souls of all those who died in this war will find everlasting peace.
All of you, please come back in one piece. White Dingoes, you have an emergency mission.
The Federation's plan of attack consists of attacking the Darwin region in the north, the city of Adelaide in the south, and Alice Springs in the central region. The attack on Alice Springs in the central region being the first step of the operation. This is to cut off Zeon supply lines and weaken their forces. The primary attack corps consists of the Red Possum unit. To avoid spreading their forces too thin, the White Dingoes, led by Lieutenant Lair, are sent in to focus on key enemy positions. Along with Lieutenant Lair, who you play as, and his codename Fang 1, the team consists of two other Mobile Suit pilots, Leon, codename Fang 2, who comes across as someone who knows more than he leads on, and Mike, codename Fang 3, who is more of a laid-back character and has an obsession with the radio DJ, but will on occasion share some deep thoughts. And then there's Anita in the hover truck, codename Oasis. Anita probably has the least development, as she really only talks about the mission and the war in general, but perhaps shows a little bit more character when she talks to you about Leon and Mike, showing that she is very observant. The team is structured in the same way as the 08th MS team from the OVA of the same name. The hover truck will even do sonar searches on the map in the same way as the anime, if commanded to. Before every mission, when you check into the garage, you'll be greeted by a mechanic who will give you verbal descriptions of every mobile suit you can select from, along with the weapons.
Hey there, Lieutenant Rayer. It's almost time to go. I'm here trying to get the mobile suit ready to move out for the operations. So if you got any suggestions, just let me know, all right?
For the first few missions, you're only able to select between the GM and the GM cannon. To anyone on the more casual side who is not well versed in Gundam, a GM is not a Gundam. Although they are both mobile suits, they are not the same.
Here it is, the RGM-79GM. This is the Federal Force's first mass production mobile suit that's fully equipped. It's not as good as the original RX-78 Gundam model, but works better as a multi-role unit. I think it's a lot more capable than the enemy's outdated Zaku suits.
To simplify this, think of a Gundam as the equivalent of an F-22 Raptor, while the GM is more comparable to the F-4 Phantom from the Vietnam era. So in this game you play in a grunt mech, which is actually an idea that I always thought would be interesting for a Gundam anime or OVA. Most recently, we did just have Gundam Requiem for Vengeance on Netflix, but that's from the perspective of a dirty Zeon pilot. I kid. Kind of. Anyways, the GM can be equipped with either the machine gun or bazooka. It also has head Vulcan machine guns as a secondary weapon, and grenades as a special weapon attack. They are actually fairly difficult to use properly in most instances, however. The downside to all special attack weapons is that they do not reload. Once you use up all of your ammo for that special weapon, that's it for the entire mission. This being an older game, however, there are of course some cheat codes out there that can change this if you really want to. GM cannon is similar to the GM, with one large cannon on the right shoulder, which serves as a special weapon. This mobile suit is a little slower and cannot equip the bazooka.
GM cannon. It has a cannon gun mounted on its right shoulder, intended as a medium-range support mobile suit. It has thicker armor at many points than most GMs, but be aware that that'll cost you some mobility. Better carefully consider what kind of mission you've got before you choose this one.
For most of the game, you are only allowed to select between two main weapons. There is one mission exception where you are given a third weapon, which I'll get to later. And then there are two shields you can select from, one small and one large. While in the garage, you can also select your squad mates' loadouts as well. Just be careful when equipping them with the bazooka, because they can accidentally stun lock you if you happen to get close to an enemy they happen to be shooting at. In the main menu option before every mission, you can also listen to messages from your teammates. Here, they will either discuss mission details with you, or something else pertaining to the war.
Hey there, white dingoes. We're at the drop point now. All set? Hatch open. Good luck, guys.
All units confirmed down. No problems. Minovsky particle output at combat density. I'm not picking up any large-scale movement in the enemy area. It seems like we may have caught them off guard. A meteor shower. Remnants of the colony drop.
During the first mission, Oasis gets a message from a civilian group. While she investigates, you and your other two teammates take on the Xeon forces in the area. This is where you're given access to the command menu, where you can give your team specific instructions. You can tell them to move or search an area, guard an ally, or attack a specific enemy. The game never fully explains how it works, but it's pretty easy to understand. As for the combat in the game, it's clear that the developers wanted to capture the feel of the combat scenes from 08 MS Team. And once you get the hang of the controls, it can feel like they came relatively close to achieving that. Every encounter requires you to take your surroundings into account before you engage, because another enemy mobile suit can attack you from behind while you're distracted or already engaged with someone else, and they can stun lock you if they have heavy weapons.
Main 1, enemy mobile suit destroyed. Way to go, Lieutenant!
At the end of the mission, Leon in Fang 2 notes that there were too few Xeon soldiers in the area for a proper defense force, given the impression that Xeon may be up to something.
There were too few of them for a properly deployed defense line. Something's fishy.
What do you mean, Leon? This was all some big feint on the enemy's part? I think you're overthinking things.
Good job on the last mission. The White Dingoes should be proud.
In the following mission, we're ordered to liberate the town of Alice Springs and act as recon for the main possum unit. Our main objective is to take out the pillboxes in the area. Alice Springs is located in Central Australia, so it was largely spared from the destruction of the colony drop, meaning that the town is largely still intact, and that we need to be careful not to cause too much collateral damage. Before the start of the mission, Anita reveals that the message she got in the first mission was by a group called Wombat, and that their intel says that a Xeon transport train will be passing through the town. There is no intel on its cargo, but Leon believes that its resources Xeon is trying to take up into space. Throughout the game, Anita will occasionally bring up her communication with the group Wombat, none of which really matters all that much. The intel on the transport train was also given to us during the mission briefing, so really this group that never appears on screen really doesn't add much 95% of the time. They can be removed from the game entirely and you wouldn't miss anything.
Lieutenant, like Commander Stanley informed us, there are many civilians still in the Alice Springs metropolitan area. I think a lot of them stayed in the center of the city because the Zeon valued the civilians who worked in the occupation base and let them live safely in exchange for their full cooperation. I think it's best if we avoid the center of the city so we can minimize any damage we do. We can then liberate the entire area after the outlying areas have been secured and disarmed.
And if we do any fighting in the city center, we have to be careful not to frag any water tanks, right? Okay, got it.
Ground tracking will be hard in a city spread out like this. I'm going to hold my position here for a minute. Requesting assistance.
Fang 3, roger that.
During the second mission, after taking out the pillboxes and 1 or 2 Zakus, that train we were told about ends up entering the city. Shortly after, a Zeon Gov pilot, Vish Donahue, contacts us and offers a deal. If we let him and the train leave the city, he will not attack us and risk causing damage to the city. A typical dirty Zeon trick, of course.
Established ourselves in neutral territory. We will not attack you in any way. Of course, if you attack us, we will have no further choice but to respond accordingly. I believe you would prefer to settle this situation in a peaceful and fair manner, as I've just laid out for you.
Got it all planned, hasn't it?
What? You mean to tell me they didn't want to fight us in the first place?
When you think about the damage we might do to the city, these conditions really don't sound that bad. What should we do, Lieutenant?
We actually do have the option of not fighting him. For first-time players, it might actually be better to actually let him leave, as he can be fairly difficult to fight against. And with this only being the second mission in the game, newer players may not be as skilled. This guy will charge you and get up close and personal, which brings up an issue the game has. Anytime a lockdown enemy gets close, you will automatically switch to your beam saber. The only way to switch back to your ranged weapon is by either getting away from your target, which good luck getting some distance from anything that isn't a Zaku.
This is no Zaku, boy, no Zaku!
Or turn off your lock-on. Melee combat is not impossible, but definitely requires getting over a steep learning curve. Once you do figure out the melee combat in the game, it can definitely feel like you're in a similar fight to when the 08th MS team fights off the Gov custom in the city. With all that being said, there really is no alternate ending to the game, depending on your choice. The only real difference is that in the cutscene that follows, Vish Donahue will either leave in his Gov or drive away in a Jeep. Personally, I always choose to attack him because you can never truly trust a dirty Zeon at its word. Once again, after the mission, your team notices how quickly Zeon evacuated the city and wonders what they can be up to.
From the battle zone. The battle's over.
I guess I'm kind of disappointed. I mean, the Zeeks still have the overwhelming advantage all across the continent, but they pulled out of this place so quickly, I really haven't figured out what to make of it. I've got a bad feeling about this.
I wonder what their abandoning this position will mean for the war in the long run, and for the possibility of any kind of peace process. Maybe it'll have no meaning at all.
And then there was that train. Do you think it was really just a troop transport, or could it have been something else?
A Zeon Gal assault carrier is then spotted heading over Central Australia, where we're stationed at. With its intentions unknown, the White Dingoes are dispatched to intercept it. It's in this mission where we're given access to the third primary weapon in the game, that being the prototype beam rifle. Unfortunately, this is the only mission in the game where this weapon is available, at least until you complete the game and unlock the game's sort of New Game Plus mode. Seeing how good this beam rifle is, it makes sense that this is the only mission in the game where you are allowed to use this. The game would be way too easy if you were allowed to equip it in every mission.
With this prototype precisely engineered to run off of a GM's internal generator and an external generator, you end up with a very temperamental weapon. It can be so temperamental, in fact, that you only get a few shots. Use it when absolutely necessary.
We also learned what the transport train from the last mission was carrying. Zeon had apparently stolen a high-output beam cannon from California base. You never really encounter this weapon if you fail to destroy the train, from what I remember. I think this was meant more as a nod or wink to foreshadow the types of weapons we see later on in the anime. Leon also later brings up the White Base in the same conversation, which is nice to learn what other Federation soldiers thought about the White Base's crew. So really, this all sort of serves as a sort of Easter egg for longtime fans.
One mobile suit team can't change the entire war situation.
I wouldn't say that. I've been hearing rumors that an autonomous unit has been doing so well for the Federation that it's changing the war situation by itself, if you can believe that. Haven't you heard about them?
Oh, yeah. I saw something about how a bunch of kids with prototype mobile suits and a new class of ship are out there really kicking some serious butt. Come on, that's a load of bull, right?
At the start of the mission, it's discovered that Xeon had apparently been waiting for us and attempt to ambush us. The map is a canyon covered with fog, but it's not dense enough to affect our visibility. With the prototype beam rifle, these Zaku-2s really aren't much of a challenge. Really, the biggest challenge here is managing our shots. The beam rifle only has 6 rounds and takes a while to reload. The last thing that we want is to be waiting to reload when the gal appears on the map. Also, the further away you are from your target, the less damage the beam will have. So, sniping at the gal's engines from far away really isn't an option. You also only have a limited time to shoot it down, because it flies over the map relatively fast. So, literally, every shot counts. Oddly enough, you can still pass the mission if you fail to shoot down the gal in time, provided you still do some damage to it. Once again, not much changes to the ending of the overall game and narrative all that much.
You've done it! I confirm that the gal's engines have been destroyed. They've begun to lose altitude.
At the end of the mission, Leon once again brings up Xeon's odd behavior. In the previous mission, they were quick to pull out of the city with little fight. And yet here, they go to the trouble of attempting to ambush us with the most mobile suits we've seen so far.
Still, why did they put this much force into a strategically worthless area like this? When you take their retreat from the last position into account as well as this, it just doesn't fit at all.
Hey, the enemy have their own complicated reasoning, right? Phew, man, I'm wiped out. Lieutenant, let's go home.
Mission 4 has us attacking a small mining base held by Xeon. It's a fairly small Xeon unit, but we're sent there to prevent them from potentially linking up with Xeon's main defense in the south as backup. During the mission prep briefing, we get a news update on the liberation of California base in North America. What I like about this is that it helps remind us that we are in a conflict that is taking place all around the world and in space.
And after a fierce battle, the Earth's federal forces were able to easily sweep away the main Xeon forces defending their military base. It's doubtful a baby ant could have managed to escape the assault.
Doesn't that sound strange to you?
December 15th, the Xeon Earth Occupation Force's largest stronghold, California base, was returned to its rightful owners within the Federation. With other Xeon units pulling out in other places, the victory of the Earth Federal Forces is now a certainty. The day when true peace will return to the territory is now close at hand.
Chassis secured? Okay, you can raise her. Locks are off.
Mission 4 is broken up into 2 parts, same as the previous 2. The first part is relatively easy. There are 3 Zaku-2s and a few tanks. The only tricky part is the first Zaku we encounter. At first sight, it will try to run away and lure us into a trap. Taking it out before we can go into the mining base is best. If we fail to do so, and follow it into the mining base, then all Xeon tanks and an additional Zaku-2 will concentrate fire on us. After the last Zaku-2 is taken out, we then get an SOS from a Medeo transport plane as it's being chased by 2 Guffs. This specific Medeo transport plane just so happens to be carrying the new mass-produced mobile suits for the Federation.
My engines are failing and I can't escape by climbing. With a little luck, I may be able to make it to your battle zone. So can you get these hyenas off my tail?
Once it makes an emergency landing at the nearby runway, we then have to take out the 2 Guffs. This might be a little difficult to new players, as these Guffs are
No Zaku, boy! No Zaku!
Return to the combat area now! Bingo! Rank 3! Enemy mobile suit destroyed!
but I find it's relatively easy if you just order Fang 2 or 3 to fight them at close range while you shoot them from the sides and back.
Bingo! Fang 3! Enemy mobile suit destroyed!
With our success at the mining base, the Federation's main force is able to push through Zeon's defense line. It's here where we learn that Leon was originally stationed at Jaburo, but he sort of just brushes this to the side, which seems kinda sus, to be honest.
The new suits. You think they'd really let us have them?
It's a sure thing.
You know, I wondered why you were so sure about that. Before they formed this unit, you were stationed at Jaburo base, weren't you? Don't you have any connections to get us some?
No way. You think a guy in that position would want to head into the dangers of the front line?
And just a quick side note here. In this game, since it is more of a prequel to 0083 Stardust Memories, Jaburo is pronounced Jabrow in the English dub. I tried searching online for a reason for this difference in pronunciation, but ultimately found nothing. Mission 5 is where we finally unlock the mass-produced gun cannons. This is a pretty beefy suit that can take a lot of punishment while also giving it back. This mobile suit comes with dual-wielding machine guns and cannot be equipped with anything else, but also comes with 2 cannons on its back as its special attack. Now, it is on the slower side compared to the first 2 mobile suits we had available, but, like I said, it is a pretty beefy suit.
Here we have the RX-77D, gun cannon mass pro type. While this packs both a lot more armor and firepower than a standard GM type, it's so heavy that it's pretty much useless for close-in hand-to-hand combat. Since it handles so much differently than the other units, you should be careful in choosing it.
This time around, we're sent to scout a recently liberated city. What's left of it, anyway. This city was relatively close to the colony drop at the start of the war, and we can see some of the devastation left behind, as there is very little left standing. Although we often hear about half of the human population being lost in the one-year war, we rarely hear it being referred to as an apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic war throughout the various series or OVAs, which it pretty much was. And here we can see some of that devastation. Our mission is to specifically search for any secret Zeon military facilities and take them out. Before the start of the mission, Anita informs us of how the behavior of the Wombat Resistance Group has been off since the start of the counterattack. This resistance group has been largely comprised of survivors from the colony drop. More on this later. Leon then brings up how the Federation failed to capture many of the Zeon submarines at the California base. This doesn't play too much of a role in the game's story, but sort of serves as another Easter egg to the anime. More specifically, when Ana Vogata escapes with the GPL-2 on a submarine in 0083 Stardust Memories.
Hey there, white dingoes! I know you heroes of historic battles must be a little steamed at getting stuck with a boring mission like this. But when we get back, we leave to start the liberation of Melbourne. Hope you don't mind.
Hey, no prob. We're handymen, right? We never complain where they send us.
That's for damn sure. You guys draw the booby prize too sometimes. Well, guess we better both try not to get killed out here. By the way, we're picking up some strange Minovsky particle interference up ahead. I'm starting to think there may be something out here.
Roger that. You be careful out there, old friend.
Lieutenant, there's definitely some abnormal Minovsky particle levels building up. We'd better be extra careful.
At the start of the mission, we're informed of there being strange Minovsky particles from the area, which can only mean one thing: enemy mobile suits. It doesn't take long before we encounter the enemy. With our new mass-produced gun cannons, the Zaku-2s pose no challenge at all. The best thing about the gun cannon is that all 3 pilots can be equipped with them, and picking these guys really helps to make the missions easier. After shooting down an enemy helicopter trying to escape, we discovered that the secret enemy facility is actually one of the submarines from California base. As long as we keep our distance, it's actually an easy target. Just don't get too close because then it'll spam its missiles at you. After taking out the submarine, we encountered 3 enemy GOG mobile suits. In a normal GM, these guys are pretty tough. Fortunately, they're not bunched up together, so they can be taken out one by one. And with the new gun cannons, they're even easier. Just remember to keep your distance. Remember, these guys are
No Zaku, boy! No Zaku!
Also, because the gun cannons have 2 machine guns, this means that when an enemy does get close to you, you won't automatically be forced to switch to your beam saber because the gun cannons don't in fact have any close range capabilities in this game. This means that if an enemy keeps trying to melee you, you can just keep jumping back and shooting at them while they're unable to hit you.
Bank 1, enemy mobile suit destroyed. Way to go, Lieutenant!
Lieutenant, all enemies destroyed. The battle's over.
Oh, man. It's finally over?
So, they had a submarine dock built here. Hope there's some important intel left inside for us. Well, I guess even Zeke soldiers don't make stupid mistakes like that.
We are then ordered to embark on a secret mission to stop Zeon from using an environmental bioweapon. The codename for this bioweapon is Azeroth, and it's our mission to intercept the main unit transporting the rest of the Azeroth samples. Anita brings up the fact that the use of bioweapons goes against the Antarctic Treaty, a treaty signed by the Federation and the Principality of Zeon at the start of the war that prohibited the use of nuclear and chemical weapons, along with using massive orbiting space colonies as weapons as well. Which just further proves that Zeon was never good to begin with, and that we really shouldn't be surprised at this point. Anita then gives us intel on the Wombat Group's last message, which said to never trust them again. Since some of the Zeon helped the locals after the colony drop, some of the Wombat members became conflicted about helping the Federation. As a result, a split took shape within the group. The inclusion of this expedition helps to add some complexity to the situation in Australia, which we rarely hear about throughout the franchise. At most, we see the crater where Sydney once stood in 0083.
Oh, we'll be over Australia soon, won't we?
We already are.
Huh?
We're crossing over Sydney right now as we speak. The ocean you so much admire is where the city used to be. The scar of the Zeon's Operation British.
Oh. This is where the colony fell?
And later in Unicorn, which I think has always been a missed opportunity in Gundam. Aside from that, this really doesn't add much to the game's story. Lastly, Anita brings up that Leon always seems like he knows more than he leads on, and that the type of missions we've been sent on have been odd to say the least.
This is Oasis. Minovsky particle density is climbing. From all indications, I'm pretty sure we're closing in on the enemy now.
At this rate, we've got no choice but to take on that enemy front line base.
Enemy fire! Oasis is taking hits! Passive sonar damage, and completely inoperative!
It's them! They were waiting for us! Anita, are you okay?
I'm fine. The truck can still move around. Fang 1, awaiting to hear your orders.
Mission 6 has us going against the Dom for the first time. And once again, these things are...
No Zaku, boy! No Zaku!
Doms are fast mobile suits that hover on the ground to give them improved mobility in open terrain. But, once again, so long as all 3 pilots are equipped with gun cannons, it's not too difficult. Along with the Dom, we also have to worry about the enemy Gallop, which is one big armored hovercraft with a cannon that can really mess up our day if we're not careful. This mission can be a little frustrating to new players, but once you figure out the enemy placements, it gets a lot easier. After the battle, we learned that the unit we took out was only a decoy to buy time for the main unit to escape.
Once the investigation team finds the stuff, we should be okay.
I hope this is the end of it. These guys may have been sent to slow us down. Let's wait here. The investigation team report is expected soon.
This is Four Knives. All base defense forces have...
Instead of continuing our search for the actual unit with the dangerous bioweapon, we're then redirected to Torrington Base, where a group of Zeon soldiers are trying to break into a nuclear storage bunker. Yet another violation of the Antarctic Treaty. This mission is a pretty nice callback for fans of 0083 Stardust Memories, as the base looks almost identical to how it looks in the anime. It's here where we finally learn that Leon was originally part of the Secret Intelligence Division in Jabro, and that he was sent to Australia to protect the secret about Torrington Base housing nuclear weapons. Leon even has certain authority that surpasses even our own. This doesn't lead to much, however, as Leon tells us that he's going to trust us, and that he'll tell us any new information he receives. even if it's top secret, and even if it results in him getting court-martialed for it. This does nonetheless explain a lot about the missions we've been sent on. From intercepting a cargo train transporting a prototype beam weapon, intercepting a Gal assault carrier, being in position to protect the Medea transport carrying new mobile suits, destroying a secret military facility, searching for the Azeroth bioweapon, to now protecting the nukes at Torrington Base. Once his secret is out in the open, Mike and Anita accept Leon's story. Mike even tells him to just keep telling us that his secret intel are only rumors.
Well, just keep telling us they're all rumors. Hey, Lieutenant, he sure did trick us big time, didn't he? Anyway, now I feel more confident about it all. Let's just keep things the way they are.
I'm sorry about this, Lieutenant. You can count on me, no matter what.
Right before launching, we also get a news update about the capture of the Space Fortress Solomon, which is a pretty nice nod to the events of the anime.
And on December 24th, the rebuilt Earth Federal Forces space fleet captured the Xeon Space Fortress Solomon, said by many to be impregnable. As the invincible Federal Forces capture position after position in space as well, the Xeon forces seem utterly helpless to stop them. It has also been confirmed that Vice Admiral Dozol Zabi of the Space Assault Forces was killed in battle. We will keep you informed of any further developments as they come in.
It looks like victory's all tied up for our side in space as well as on the ground, Lieutenant. Let's just keep fighting as hard as we possibly can.
Mission 7 has a few more DOMs than the previous mission, but with the gun cannons, they're once again not that difficult. Just don't shoot at the bunker that's holding all the nukes, which shouldn't be too difficult to do, unless you're of the curious type and just want to see what happens. But don't get mad at me if you have to restart the mission. Honestly, my only complaint about this mission is that there just aren't enough enemies on the map to continue the fun. Near the end of the mission, we get an open broadcast by a Xeon commander to announce that Operation Staircase of the Moon has been activated. After we wipe out the last Xeon mobile suit, one soldier escapes in a jet core booster.
The mission's over.
What was up with that transmission we heard before?
A jet core booster has just been spotted taking off from the runway. This is White Dingo calling. Please come in. Jet core booster pilot, do you read me? Please come in.
Sig. Uh-oh. Let's get after him.
Too late. Where is he gone? Let's see if we can trace his route and figure out where he's going. Contact headquarters about this.
Jeez, some guys are just bad losers.
Federation forces guess that the goal of Operation Staircase of the Moon is for Xeon forces to escape to the lunar city of Granada. This causes the Federation forces to zero in on the HLV launch site located in northeastern Australia, which is where we're ordered to go next. The jet core booster that escaped Torrington Base was also tracked heading in that direction. This offensive actually has two parts, and it is broken up into two missions. For the first phase, we are to link up with another mobile suit team to attack a base that's along the way. Leon shares his intel on just what type of bioweapon Azeroth really is.
Lieutenant, I'm going to fill you in on everything that I've been able to learn about Astaroth since we first became aware of its existence. The project started out under the direction of Xeon Zoom Daikon to develop a new species of plant life capable of maximum controlled growth in the closed world of a space colony. But having been raised for so long in the artificial environment of the space colonies, the Xeon researchers eventually hit a dead end and came down to Earth after the war began. After arriving on Earth, they resumed research, but found that the growth rate of the samples they created was too high. Furthermore, testing revealed that the plants had mutated, and the release of them into a natural setting would result in widespread destruction across the entire ecosystem. The Xeon military then devised a plan to use them as a bioweapon that would wipe out forests, marshlands, and farms, eventually making the planet uninhabitable. If this is actually true, they've created a bioweapon that portends total annihilation of the planet. Although it has no direct effect on people and doesn't immediately destroy the land like a nuclear weapon, its long-term impact is just as devastating. That's why we must penetrate their air defense before they are able to unleash this upon us.
Once again, proving that the only good Xeon is a dead Xeon.
Emergency message from advanced team.
This is the 04th Mobile Suit Team. We've begun our assault on the enemy stronghold, and we confirm they have a heavy beam cannon.
look at this!
Wiped out. What the hell?
Damn it. They just had to go in there before we got there, didn't they? Fools.
Bang 2, ready to go in.
Yeah, anytime. I'm ready.
Bang 1, give us your orders at once!
Unfortunately, the team we were supposed to link up with gets wiped out by a heavy beam cannon before we get to the base, leaving us to attack the military base alone. I also think it was because the Dreamcast's hardware probably couldn't handle having so many mobile suits on screen all at once. This mission is actually pretty easy, especially the first part. Before taking out the main base, there are 2 hill bunkers that need to be taken out. You can then snipe at the enemy Zaku below. After that, take out the beam cannons on the base. And then you'll only have to worry about the last Zaku, which after playing several missions with Govs, Gogs, and Doms, these guys really aren't much of a challenge anymore.
All personnel, clear the area!
Raise the lift.
All personnel, clear the area! Generator output, nominal.
Confirm. Upper units 1 through 8 are operating.
Operating. Activate Minovsky craft. Adzamolga, move out.
Sighting of huge mobile weapons surveying the area confirmed. Running data comparison.
The second part of the mission has us going up against a mobile armor, similar to the one Amuro fights in the desert from the anime. It has some good weapons, but so long as you keep moving and focus on taking out its legs, it shouldn't be too difficult.
Bang 2, roger.
Adzam destroyed. That's 1 for the advance team.
Enemy anti-air weaponry offline. Now we just have to get going to that HLV launch site.
Hey, Lieutenant Rhea, you still alive?
Hey, Bob, what's up?
Well, you guys did such a great job that I figured I'd come out for a house call as a reward. We can't have you going into the last battle all beat up like you are, can we? I brought you some new supplies to restock you with.
At the end of the mission, we're resupplied by a Medea transport plane and our trusted mechanic with some shiny new toys. For the second part of the offensive and final mission, we launch an attack on the HLV launch site. And these shiny new toys I just mentioned are the now iconic GM Sniper 2 White Dingoes. These specialized mobile suits have superior speed and mobility. My only criticism about this suit is that it's only available in this final mission. It can't even be used in a New Game Plus mode outside of Mission 9. Also, this game comes without its iconic beam sniper rifle. We can't even equip the prototype beam rifle on it. Aside from that, it's actually a pretty sweet ride.
What you're looking at is the RGM-79SP, GM Sniper Custom 2. This is a special, low production run unit that was designed for ace pilots. While they originally designed it for sniping, it takes the basic GM design to its ultimate performance limit. If I had to pick a suit to take, this would be the one.
Re-entry systems, all green. All hands, brace for the shock.
Enemy mobile
We still need more time before we launch number 2 and 3.
Please intercept.
Booster, nominal. Mission start.
I'm reading movement. Early orbital patrol lane. All systems go.
Boosters 1 through 6 are in the green.
Boosters, the rise again.
Damn, one of them's launched.
There's no way we can attack it from here. Let's just try to prevent the other 2 from taking off, you understand? It's a high-output beam cannon. All units alert. Bang 2, are you still able to fight?
Yeah, I think I'm okay.
We get to the base right as the HLV is prepared to launch, one of which takes off right as we enter the base. We're then attacked by Vish Danihu in his new Galgug mobile suit, and this time he's also carrying a beam rifle with him. This fight can be extremely difficult for newer players. He is fast and aggressive. He doesn't even have to get close to do some serious damage. And it only gets harder if we fail to take him out quickly, because another boss enemy soon appears that can be even more difficult to fight. This new enemy is known as the Rhinoceros, and it can get you in an almost endless stun lock with its missiles and cannon. Once you figure out how to take out the Galgook by ordering one of your team to fight it at close range, while you and your other teammates shoot from the sides, it gets pretty easy. After we take out the Galgook, its pilot makes one final request that we spare the young soldiers, because they were just following orders.
I have one last request, if you'll allow me. The soldiers who evacuated from the HLV, they're mostly cadets, just kids. Please, don't let them die needlessly. You're just following orders.
Which, gee, never heard that excuse before. It's all fun and games committing war crimes and wiping out half of humanity until your side loses. Then it turns into, we were just following orders. You'll want to make sure you keep all your team alive because you'll need all of them to take out the Rhinoceros. Fighting it can almost feel like you're fighting a boss straight out of Armored Core. My only criticism of this mission is that once you know how to take out the two enemies, it can feel too easy for a final mission. There are only 2 enemies on the entire map, not counting some stationary targets. My guess is that it has to do with the limitations of the hardware. Combine the design of the map with the Rhinoceros likely being a difficult enemy for the engine to process, and it may not have been possible to add much more. Anyway, the last 2 HLVs are then destroyed, and that pretty much ends the final mission. The Zeon base falls, and the remaining soldiers surrender. As for the HLV that actually did launch, instead of going into space, it re-entered the atmosphere and landed in Africa, which even further connects this game with 0083 Stardust Memories. In fact, you may even be tempted to watch the OVA right after playing this. Further exposition then explains that the unit carrying the Azeroth bioweapon acted on their own, sort of to try to show that the Zeon weren't all that bad. But as we all know, the only good Zeon is a dead Zeon. This info also doesn't add up, since it's explained in the same exposition that one of the HLVs we destroyed actually ended up carrying the Azeroth samples.
Sounds good to me. Lieutenant, why don't you try asking Captain Stanley about that too, Lyra?
Now hang on,
Ground
guys.
troops and air
What do you
fleet
say,
on both
Lieutenant?
sides are withdrawing
Sounds
as I
like a
speak.
pretty good idea to me.
We will no doubt be feeling the
Leon,
effects of this
lately
war
what
for
you've been
decades
saying
to
is
come.
starting to make a little more
How
sense
the
to me.
world will change
What do
from
you say
now
we go
on is
back,
something
get
we
some
won't
drinks,
entirely
and
know for a long
visit?
time, but I believe a day will come when all of mankind, Earthnoid and Spacenoid, will finally be able to live together in harmony. And as we dream of that day, let us say a prayer that the souls of all those who died in this war will find everlasting peace.
After the credits roll, we are shown our combat results, and even unlock some new items for future playthroughs, including 3 beam weapons that we can now use on any mission, improved thrusters and armor, and some pictures that appear in the cockpit. With the weapons, armor, and improved thrusters, every new playthrough is basically always going to feel like it's on easy mode. Aside from that, nothing changes in the campaign, and still no beam sniper rifle. There is another version of the game that was only a limited edition in Japan, where you can fight against the Gundam, gun cannon, and gun tank. This mode is a bit odd, as it may have been better to have an extra mode where you're able to play as one of the 3 in some kind of special mission. After replaying the game for the first time in a really long time, I came to a startling realization. You see, I lied. In an older video where I talked about the game Journey to Jaburo on the PlayStation 2, I mentioned that it was the first Gundam game I have ever played. While making that video, I had actually forgotten about this game. Rise from the Ashes was in fact the first Gundam game I have ever played. This 25-year-old game has somewhat of a cult following, even among Gundam fans, because of its controls. If you've ever seen a Dreamcast controller, then I'm sure you'll automatically know why. To move around, you would use a D-pad, and to move the camera, you would move the one analog stick. The only problem was that the analog stick and the D-pad were both on the same side. Most controllers today tend to come with 2 joysticks, but in 1999, console makers were still figuring this out. If you try playing on an emulator, you can now fix this with a modern controller, but that wasn't an option back then. It would be interesting to see if a similar Gundam game were to be released today with modern controllers. The most recent that comes to mind might be Titanfall 2.
Got you.
which has some pretty solid controls when you're in the cockpit of your mech in that game. There have of course been other Gundam games that were in first person, but those were unfortunately only released in Japan. Also, if you ever try playing this on an emulator, I would say to be careful when you map the controls to both joysticks. I'm not someone who gets motion sickness, but when I tried mapping the controls to both sticks, I found myself getting disoriented. At most, map the camera to the right joystick, while keeping the movement mapped to the D-pad. And lastly, this brings us to the final part. Was the game any good? And the answer, as it is for many Gundam games, is complicated. If you can get used to the controls and figure out the gameplay, then this game can be a lot of fun. And I would say that this is in fact a good Gundam game. It is, after all, one of my favorite Gundam games of all time. I personally enjoy it even more than Zeonic Front. And that's saying something because Zeonic Front is seen as one of the best. Unfortunately, you have to play as a dirty Zeon pilot in that one. So we have to take off points for that. I'm joking. Kind of. The only real downside is that the game is not that long. You can literally complete the game from start to finish in around 2 hours. Anyway, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider subscribing. Until next time.